So traditionally, there's a system of taking on some debt in the fourth quarter and then quickly paying it off or trying to do so after the new year. But many experts are saying that's becoming more difficult. And you know, Mark, I looked at the data. And over the weekend, $1.8 trillion spent. That wasn't all cash. So what's the condition of the consumer right now? And do you think they'll be able to pay that off amid high interest rates?
Yeah, well, first of all, good morning, John and Chrissy. Always good to see you guys. And yes, credit card debt is something we watch very, very carefully. We also watch, however, another statistic related to that, and that is the rate of charge-offs or delinquencies. A little bit of debt can be a good thing if you make those monthly payments, if you keep your rates down, you're not paying high interest rates to continue to carry large balances. Of course, this plays into the Fed, John. J-Powell, they've got to move on the 10th. They've got to give us that first 25 basis point rate cut, because that's the first thing that's going to help consumers manage that credit card debt, is getting that damn interest rate down. And we know that the president's new pick for Fed chair is going to actually bring us and deliver more of that in Q1 of next year.
Yeah, a bullish Q1. But speaking of Fed Chair Jerome Powell, he was speaking at a Stanford University event, skipping past what Americans want to talk about. Let's watch.
And just to be clear right at the start, I will not address current economic conditions or monetary policy.
Very helpful, typical Powell there with Fed speak. Powell's term is up in May, and what everyone is talking about is who will replace him. Who do you think that'll be, as well as do you believe there will be a rate cut next week?
I know that President Trump has been looking for a replacement for Jerome Powell for a long time, and wow, I would love to be able to predict the future on rate cuts, but it seems like Powell is always holding this really tight to his chest. But what I would love for Americans not to have to worry about who the Fed chair is or have so much importance on the Fed chair, because one thing that we can do to curb inflation now and into the future is get our out of control government spending under control. Under the Biden administration, they spent $5.5 trillion in new spending. That's what led to 40-year high inflation. That's what led to the Fed having to come in and lower those rates. If we can control spending, we can control rates and make our economy more strong and not have to worry too much about who our Fed chair is.
You know what? I've been wishing for that for the last maybe 25 years. And you know what? It's never in my stocking for Christmas, but I'm going to keep hope alive. But you know what? Pivoting a little bit, Costco now suing the Trump administration over tariffs. The big box store now looking for a full refund. Mark, what say you? Because last time I checked on these tariffs, it doesn't say refund.
Yeah, I got to tell you, John, this is a very questionable legal maneuver on the part of Costco, and I'm going to put my lawyer hat on. I don't know if you remember, but I practiced law for 20 years, so I can actually speak to this subject with a little bit of authority. Hopefully I get it right. But at the end of the day, this is quite a big and costly gamble on Costco's part because of the timing of this case. Forget the merits. I think it completely lacks merit. But to try to get ahead of the Supreme Court's decision on the constitutionality of President Trump's exercise of the power clearly granted to him under the Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose these tariffs, this is going to get kicked to the curb by the Supremes, John. They are not going to hear this case ahead of the constitutionality of the underlying use of this power by the president.
The things that Costco will do to keep that hot dog at $1.50, I mean, it's amazing.
They're not selling enough of those big inflatable Santas this season, apparently. I don't know. I don't know what this is about.
Yeah, turning from Costco to a less fun topic, pharmaceuticals and the medicine we need, so it is a necessity. Kent, we saw that the U.S. and the EU, they've agreed to zero tariffs on pharmaceuticals. Can you talk about the implications of that and what it means for future tariff deals?
Sure, I think it's great news that we can continue to lower trade barriers to make things more affordable, especially medicine. Look, Americans are struggling with high healthcare prices, especially when we see the failures of Obamacare. And right now, we had a government shutdown over the Democrats arguing that we need more federal tax dollar subsidies just to prop up a failed system. And so healthcare prices and costs are top of mind for Americans and certainly top of mind for President Trump and Republicans. So I think this is a great move to lower some of the trade barriers, bring in the life-saving medicines that Americans need. In the meantime, we also need Congress to step up. Rather than subsidizing a failed Obamacare program, why don't we directly fund patients, open up more health savings accounts so Americans can choose their own options in healthcare, lower costs, and drive more affordability?
You know, Mark, I understand President Trump's strategy in terms of making sure that he can get the best deal for working class Americans. But I'm exhausted. Why am I exhausted? Well, you know what? Technically, when you put tariffs on certain things and take them off of others, technically that's creating somewhat of an imbalance, according to some economists. So I want to get your take on it. You decide if you want to put your business hat on, lawyer hat on, or wear both at the same time. Take it away.
Well, I'm going to put my business and economist hat on here. And at the end of the day, John, what the president's tariff policies are about is about bringing trade equality, bringing a level playing field to the field of international trade and putting the United States back in a position not to have an unfair advantage over our trade partners, but to address some of these fundamental imbalances that have put us at a disadvantage and have led, and I'm so happy that we're talking about affordability. We have a healthcare crisis in this country. We have an affordability and accessibility crisis in this country. Everyday average working Americans cannot access affordable healthcare. But the way to do it is not to tax and spend. The way to do it is to bring businesses in line so they can deliver affordable healthcare in a profitable way to the American public. And dropping these trade barriers, like we see with the president's tariff policy, is an important step towards bringing healthcare affordability into focus for all Americans.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, well, as we wrap up the Thanksgiving holiday, Cyber Monday, all these specific days that we are experiencing, many people are saying as a result of President Trump's tariff policies and just many different market irregularities that we've been seeing, they're skeptical that we will have that Santa Claus rally going into the new year. Do you think we are due for that?
Look, I look at Thanksgiving spending hit a record high. The Black Friday hit a record high. It appears that Cyber Monday was strong as well. And it sounds like we have an incredibly durable economy. Folks are certainly shopping for value. They're looking for needs over wants. But at the same time, look, it's outpacing inflation. And I think it's so important that we continue to pass pro-growth policies. Look, the one big beautiful bill is going to make sure that our tax rates remain the same. President Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act remain permanent. That's going to save the average American family $1,500 more. And so affordability is key. And not only should we be looking at Christmas, but we should look beyond that. We have lower gas prices. 30 states have gas under $3. And so I think it was, we look at President Trump and this particular Congress continue to find ways to lower cost, drive affordability. We could also unleash permitting reform to get energy faster, remove the red tape that stops us from producing the energy we need to thrive and grow. And so certainly Christmas and Black Friday and sales reports are important. There's so much more that we can do for this affordability crisis to lower costs for American families.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, Mark, here's the thing. Many people decided to slow down a little bit of their spending because they didn't know where this shutdown was going. Now the shutdown is behind us. And when you look at, let's say, business people and even everyday average working Americans, they actually also waited for these sales. In the meantime, you know what? Record-breaking profits. So could this be one of the biggest in terms of sales during this holiday season that we've seen in decades?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly what everybody's expecting, John. 1.2 to 1.4 trillion is the total expectation for holiday sales, not just Black Friday, not just Cyber Monday, but in total. A record number of shoppers, over 187 million shoppers expected to participate in the holiday sales. And look, we can't just look at Black Friday. We can't just look at Cyber Monday and say, maybe people are pulling back. Sales are maybe a little bit diluted or weak. Here's the reason why you can't do that. Those individual days have become, over the years, less and less relevant as the retailers like Amazon think Prime Days for a moment. It's Black Friday once every 2 months. And consumers know that. They don't have to stand in line at 3 o'clock in the morning outside Macy's to get those doorbusters anymore. They don't even have to rush to be in front of their PC on Cyber Monday because we have Super Saturday, we have other days that compose the holiday sales season, and consumers know that. So it's not that we see these big spikes on these single days like we used to, but overall, I think we're going to see very strong retail sales, even on an inflation-adjusted basis for this holiday season.
Well, we have to leave it there, but Mark, I want to make sure that I really support you. So I'm going to do what I can do to make sure I go out and spend as well as go online to buy the things that I need and possibly a lot of things I don't need. Thanks,
Just
Mark.
make sure I'm on your Christmas list, John. That's all I want to know. Where am I on your Christmas list?
Let's see. Oh, there you are. There you are. I got
You're on
it.
the nice list.
Thanks, Mark and Kent. We appreciate it.